É, Rio de Janeiro, Brasil, City, Rio de Janeiro, Rio de Janeiro State, Brazil, 12 September 2022. We will report things we did in these last 15 days, I think. We presented this module on August and helps to understand a space. This space is ruled by functions. Each function has its own properties, and each property has a group of functionality named attributes. The attributes will be the specialized behavior, which is the functionality, and the functionality qualifies the function which got integrated, and the relation between two functions indeed is named a structure. If this structure is oriented or has as directive the security, you will name as a forum. The function Brazil security and USA security by functionality as specialized type uh, leads to the behavior we have, will carry the attributes executed by each node inside this system, because it's inside our global environment. When you are concerned with things that are outlined, of course that the integrity of your line will be decreased, erased, and this is a gap at the structure or at the forum, security forum. In the same way, will be complained as a gap at the system, global stability and security. If you consider that we have the planet Earth and you have gaps at the basis, of course that you will notice that probably things will be a little shaky, like earthquake and things like this. And to avoid an earthquake, we must have these gaps filled, but properly filled considering the kind of summit that you are and the forum that you belong as permanent, following the lines as headlines in American Constitution and in Brazilian Constitution. Then we will check that this brings ourselves to validation of proofs and the encouragement of judicial decision based on risk. And this risk is in a measure, you know, of institutional power qualified as abusive, leading to trust, cartel, economic crimes, and others. And your department will wouldn't have the interest as solving problems, but create problems to protect the kind of headlines that they are following. This was the idea. We offered this industrial project research intellectual asset violated. violations by a procedure has the signature at least one judicial chair. The corruption going at the government, the corporative area, and the state will be integrated at least in one moment as a unique thing. And this unique thing is a collinear behavior. On econometric, the estimative is threatened and risked by this, and so your criminal inference. The corruption affected these three different sectors equally, and your intention has a gap, and you will not apply the first mandatory premise as your constitution or the others at the second level as the legal system or the statement of your company. You will consider change this. For instance, if you are at the electoral period in Brazil and you have this speech about sexual offenders, and you consider that you can have the castration by chemical, pills or something like this. You can't have this. You are lying, because the Constitution do not allow punishment as perpetual punishment. And in the same way, it's a curious thing when we have politicians abandoning the family name, having only their first name, by relatives involved on scams. Corruptions made the gap and integrity in your existence at this period must not be related with the failure sometimes you didn't assume it. We have this equally projected by existence considering the astrophysics in all areas, which goes by things that for sure you buy and receive as minor or low quality. It's named piracy. It's a crime. But if your local department is concerned in steal your data, have the insertion of fake records on your machines, and of course that if you have this castration by, porn files as storage with a system that violate your data and steal your intellectual asset or do a modification on your machine by remote access and the skills trained but for a criminal purpose, this state by obvious will suffer a lot of petitions requiring the compensation by judicial failure. That indeed is a piece at these failure and integrated scams of failure will impact the election around the globe by the physiologic level as financial system that can transfer money by donations at campaigns, considering the compromising and the assumed compromise after the election or based on the electoral result to obtain the advantage or privilege, and this is named insider trading. But if it goes as state power, indeed will be nominated treason. We had this model before as obstruction that will be made to cover crimes, protect criminals, have the continuity of scams, and have for sure the distribution or redistribution as criminal result, considering the interest in being at this scam by the entrance in the very first moment as corruption. You are inside the department, you would like to have a better chair, and the corruption is something that is a common language on it by the integrated failure. You will operate by corruption, but you'd like to put your son, your daughter, or whatever at this and you do this by nepotism, as the extended view as corruption. One more time, you have insider trading. And when you got charged by the lack of capacity to solve problems and act against the organized crime in levels local or transcontinental, you have conflict of interest. Another reason to have you in the way you have at the court, in a trial, to observe your behavior and have the declaration of guiltiness, because you wouldn't like to have a machine doing this. So you must have the human resource doing this. The murder as political murder, or the murder by contamination, or something that goes isolated by the pattern observed, having a frequency on it, even projected on risk like the vaccine or things that can happen. Probably you have the genocide prepared, covered as a murder, with obstruction setting the misperception about facts, circumstance, and the reality. And if the speech to do the vaccine or to have this, of course, that can be terror or raising the intimidation and culture of fear. In the same way, we observe that the murder covered or the assassination covered by something that will be reported or have the registry as a natural cause or a suicide or something like this, by the poison you put at the items you eat or drink, or by the things you use for the death event, and cover this by the records and by the levels you have on the department. Of course, that will create a new reality and will be something horrible for the make decision procedure, considering the judicial decision. In Brazil, maybe you will consider something normal or regular, but it's not regular. It's something, terrible. Especially because the death event has one of the consequences is the heritage procedure. If you kill an entire family in many areas in Brazil, the state will be the owner of this property. But the state, as that structure used for criminal purpose, indeed you are having the economic empowerment of the criminal activity by the misuse of state power based on the continuity of criminals occupying chairs at the state and democratic institution. The budget allowed them to have and achieve the advantage by credits having the coverage by the national treasury. This is a treason. And then you are doing having the risk as the heritage and the economic empowerment of the organized crime by the misuse of state chairs power and institutional power and chairs. You having a fixed asset as your property, your house, your car, or something like this. Brazil, I think that's not for real. The Banax Space, it's on Risk Report 2022, 3 September. Dutchblogspot.com, it's about this. The concept is the Banach space, considering the astrophysics, the relation between two spaces without anything will have no equals on it. But we'll observe that the distribution by this space or through this space with equals indeed present this as something named the internal dot product, going inside the Banach space. The Banach space security shouldn't have equals or have the equals as criminal activity on it, as you could observe in Brazil. And we have a theory, Criminal Science Brazil, named specific hands. The crimes by chiefs only can go by the chief. In the same way, the public corruption only goes by public departments. Brazil do not believe in their own theory. They fail. America has the uncovering the veil. When you have the institution moral entity or something like this to cover the criminal activity, and this institution or moral entity or even the state will suffer the consequence by the wrongdoing made by a specific person. This theory says that you will uncover the veil to get the criminals. Individualized as specific hands. We complained issues to Brazil. Brazil had silence integrated failure proven. Complained equally with the America at the Security Forum by the Article 1, Item 4, 5, Item 9, Item 9, 13, and 22, which is the protection of property of the Brazilian Constitution, observed 144, because the authorities and institutions there are unable to protect the property if they are part of the integrated failure as criminal scam. In a transcontinental level, at least since 2007, Pan American Games, F14, Olympic 16, COVID 19, and ECO 92 on Rio de Janeiro, 1992. America will have the action because indeed the view is uncovered. Blind eye association is a serious crime. Have a great night.